Welcome and hello, everyone. I am thrilled to present you today's webinar, Transforming Writing, a District's SRSD and MTSS Journey. This is part of the Hill for Literacy's ongoing webinar series, where together we are creating a world where every child is a reader. At the Hill, we partner with schools through on-site support, professional development workshops, and self-paced courses. And our free webinar series is just one of the ways that we share the latest tools and ideas that can make a real difference in your schools and classrooms. My name is Benjamin Schurz, and I lead strategic partnerships here at the Hill for Literacy. And today, I am pleased to announce it's a special day. We get to announce our partnership with Dr. Leslie Laud, the founder of ThinkSRSD. Leslie's a longtime collaborator and leader in evidence-based writing instruction, and we're joined also by Rebecca Thompson from Holyoke Public Schools, who will share how by working with both the Hill for Literacy and ThinkSRSD, her school district is seeing enhanced student engagement and improved student outcomes. Super exciting. And now I'm delighted to introduce our panelists. We have Dr. Leslie Laud from ThinkSRSD, Rebecca Thompson from Holyoke School District, and our own Hill for Literacy's Cara Delaterra. Rebecca comes to us serving as the Executive Director of Academics for grades pre-K to 12 at Holyoke Public Schools in Holyoke, Massachusetts for the last 3.5 years. She is a doctoral student at Creighton University, where she is developing her leadership expertise in the public school arena. And Rebecca brings a collaborative problem-solving approach to her leadership with Holyoke Public Schools, recognizing that innovative thinking and persistence can drive meaningful progress, even within organizational constraints. Dr. Leslie Laud supports districts and states nationally by strengthening writing instruction. She holds a doctorate from Columbia University and leads research studies. She has served as a lead primary investigator on several federally funded grants and large research studies about writing instruction. And Dr. Laud's also published empirical studies in peer-reviewed journals and presents frequently at national conferences. And it's good to know that Leslie began her career teaching in both general and special education settings, as well as working as a principal. And Cara is the Director of Consulting here at the Hill for Literacy and has been guiding pre-K to 12 districts across the country in implementing sustainable evidence-based literacy practices that drive measurable student outcomes. And Cara has deep knowledge of early literacy development with a strong foundation in translating research into practical strategies tailored to diverse learners. And Cara is an experienced leader who has managed federally funded research initiatives as well, designs professional development learning programs, and regularly presents on literacy coaching, assessment systems, and data-driven instruction. And so for the structure of our webinar, we're going to hear from each of our presenters, then we're going to break out into a Q&A session, and we will have time to answer any questions that are submitted. So if you want to submit a question, anything that you're wondering about, please do so through the question and answer feature on the platform. And everyone will receive a recording of this webinar for you to review. You can watch it again, you can share it with your friends and colleagues. And now, Rebecca will start us off. Go ahead, take it away.
Thank you. We've been really intentional about building strong partnerships to accelerate literacy growth here in Holyoke. And it feels so powerful already. I've been in this role, as Ben shared, for about 3.5 years. And we have also partnered with Hill for Literacy in that same amount of time. And that was when we first launched. And it's been a really special partnership in that we are seeing student growth, we are seeing student confidence, we are seeing teachers have a sense of efficacy in their roles through the work that we have been able to engage in here. And Hill has been with us through that every step of the way. And what they have offered in this partnership is, it started with professional learning over the course of 2 years. And with that professional learning came coaching. It wasn't a once and done, or here is a module and you're going to just have to go implement that on your own, never to be, heard from again. It has been a true partnership. And that coaching is not just for teachers and their practice, but to coach our literacy coaches to proficiency so that they can support our teachers in a meaningful way, ongoing long after, this partnership may, end at some time, because we've built ourselves to this space. And for our school leaders as well, it has been tailored for what they should be looking for as they enter classrooms and spaces of literacy learning. I had one of the most powerful moments, I think, of the last 3.5 years, probably a month or two ago. They have supported us in launching data meetings, and this practice started last year. And that data meeting where we're taking our DIBELS data, we're using the Hill Continuum platform. I went to one of our schools, and one of the coaches, our Holyoke coaches, was leading that meeting herself. And it was probably the strongest collaboration between teachers, interventionists, the coach, the ELD teachers for our English learners, our special educators. Were sitting in that space together, talking about individual students and how they were going to group them. And it was just incredibly powerful to see that, when we hear data, sometimes that can have like a negative connotation to it. And this was really genuinely about the students who are in our classrooms receiving this instruction every day. And so that through line of let's go slow, let's get there, with our learning, our coaching, our bringing in the data. How do we pair strategies that we've learned with our student data to help them excel and succeed in the most positive of ways, has been really impressive. They also helped us in our search for high quality instructional materials, and they did not encourage us to adopt one over another or anything like that, but it was really a true support in bringing so many of our stakeholders in this district together to be able to evaluate and review and have a process that felt like voices were included. And so we appreciate that. And we also, this year, without knowing there was going to be a partnership announced between Hill for Literacy and ThinkSRSD, we partnered with ThinkSRSD in our upper grades for grades 3 to 8, because we knew, based on student performance data and what we were seeing in classrooms of grade level work production and the like, that we really needed to bring in a focus on systematic writing instruction. And the last few days I've been sitting in schools with leaders as we have been going through our quarterly school improvement plan reviews and talking about all of the great work that's happening in schools. And this has been a highlight of just, it's been amazing to walk into classrooms and see students in just this amount of time since, August until now, how much is being seen on a page. And we're really, really excited for what comes next. And our plan moving forward is to roll that Hill for Literacy work up to grades 3 and plus, so that there's an understanding of what that instruction looks like for our grade 3 teachers and above. And additionally, taking that ThinkSRSD writing work that we are doing and rolling that down to K-2. And so there will be overlap of this partnership, hopefully, in all of our grade levels that we work with both. And our approach thus far has been, we're intentionally going slow. We have to sweat the small stuff. We did not bring in ThinkSRSD to K-2 yet, because we knew we needed to give our teachers another year to continue to implement and get really strong at all of the little things that are already showing gains for our students, and not to overwhelm. We do recognize the urgency to develop this fully operational MTSS model, and that is what we have been doing. We have been fitting all of those little puzzle pieces together in our literacy ecosystem. We know that reading and writing go hand in hand, and we also want to be cognizant of supporting our teachers, supporting how much we can lift at a time, and getting really good at this to ensure we can continue this momentum that we're building on. And there's just excitement, I think, in these K-2 classrooms for sure. And now we're starting to feel that as well, that spark in our upper ELA classrooms, as students are starting to really engage and produce more and share their thoughts, and it's been wonderful partnership.
All right, thank you, Rebecca. So with that, I'm going to zoom us out a little bit. So everything that Rebecca shared makes it sound like it's been so easy. But this is really challenging work. Strategic change management is incredibly complex. The journey toward literacy proficiency in the US is fraught with complexity, and it's highlighted by this quote by E.L. Meccan. Every complex problem has a solution which is simple, direct, plausible, and wrong. The sentiment really underscores this reality that simplistic approaches cannot resolve these multifaceted issues that surround literacy. Literacy is encompassing not only reading, but also listening, speaking, and writing. These skills are foundational for academic and life success. And despite this widespread recognition of this importance, our national outcomes remain troublingly low. And this really is evidence of the systemic differences that we really need to be addressing. So it's really difficult because we're trying to create this change in these very complex ecosystems. Schools are challenging places for transformative change to occur. And even though there's no simple solutions to these very complex problems, there are some things that we need to pay attention to in order to be successful. And so you're going to hear me kind of echo some of the things that Rebecca shared about what their approach has been. Successful change management really begins with this deep understanding of what are the needs of educators and students within your system. We have to avoid making assumptions, and instead we need to be asking, what do we know to be true about what people are up to in their rooms, and what are they up against? So really kind of taking stock of the situation so that the best plan can be developed that's truly strategic and responsive to what those needs are. We need to support creating and communicating a shared vision, and it's really essential. So we need leaders to be acting as visionaries, examples, and mentors so that that vision comes to life. And Rebecca has done an amazing job about this, along with her whole admin team. It's been such a pleasure to see. And change has to be collaborative. It needs to be done with people, not to them. And so having that process be a we instead of an edict from on high is really important. And then also, because this process is so messy, it often involves setbacks. That's normal. But these can be strategic opportunities to really pivot, adjust your strategic plan, and then move forward. Okay, so I want to connect these organizational systems to MTSS, so multi-tiered systems of support. This is critical for achieving sustainable literacy outcomes. The Hill model serves as a framework for operationalizing MTSS, guiding districts like Holyoke through strategic change. Our model addresses the whole system, so leadership, assessment, tiered instruction, professional learning, and family engagement. Holyoke's approach addressed these both at the individual level as well as at an organizational change level, which is really important for creating sustainable transformation that is shifting both behaviors and structure. Individual change is focused on shifting behaviors and practices. So if things aren't being done differently, then has change really occurred, right? At its heart. While organizational change requires altering structures that are supporting and sustaining those new behaviors. So if people try to start to behave differently, but the organization structure is the same, people's behavior doesn't really change. It's not sustainable. We kind of revert to what we're comfortable with. So sustainability is really achieved when those new ways of working and improved outcomes become the norm. supported by transformed systems and fundamentally altered thinking. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up with a few more details that really was the practical impact of applying all of this. In order for individual change to occur, Holyoke knew that they needed to support teachers with the knowledge of evidence-based literacy, instruction, and skills. So the district invested in building teacher capacity and providing that background knowledge and evidence-based instruction using our Science of Reading course, as well as the direct coaching that Rebecca was talking about. The support for the coaches, those district-based coaches, was really critical for creating that internal sustainability for those support mechanisms. They also invested in resources in multiple ways. So in people resources, as I just described, but also materials like the HQIM adoption, but also time, which is all honestly like the most precious resource that we have, right? And their decision to take this year to sweat the small stuff is really evidence of taking the time that's necessary to ensure that that change takes hold before barreling ahead into the next initiative. And this is a really significant contributor towards success. So all of these decisions have helped and are not easy to make, because the reality is things are always clamoring for our attention. And it can all seem equally important, but when we try to do everything all at once, we do nothing well. So sustainable change really takes a lot of thoughtful strategy and time. Organizational change in this process was really facilitated by empowering leaders with knowledge, leaders at multiple levels, district level, school level, and grade level, forming a district literacy leadership team, supporting the restructuring of master schedules, protecting collaboration time for teachers, another thing that's really hard related to time, but hugely impactful, shifting how data was collected, analyzed, and turning that information into actions that teachers could take to improve student outcomes. So looking ahead, the Holyoke plans to roll SRSD down and the evidence-based instructional practices up is really exciting. And these steps are really part of this broader strategy to embed evidence-based practices across all of the grades. But by doing this in stages, they've built internal capacity at the lower elementary that they can leverage in rolling it up and vice versa. So the district's experience really highlights the importance of having this very strategic focus and avoiding that trap of trying to do everything at once, which often leads to doing nothing well. Sustainable change really demands very thoughtful planning, resource investment, and time. And by aligning all these individual and organizational efforts within this MTSS framework, the district can create lasting improvements in literacy outcomes. And with that, I'm really excited to turn things over to Leslie.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to come and join us to think about these really important factors in changing our schools and improving our schools. I'm so excited and thrilled and honored to be part of this webinar. Cara is somebody who I've known and deeply admired for probably decades. We worked together at the Hill about 10 years ago. And at that time, I was blown away by the depth of her expertise. And now it's 10 years later, the Hill has their 10,000 hours. They have this expertise. This is what Cara is doing day in, day out, living, eating, and breathing. And you could hear that in her, the depth of her command of what schools need to have in place in order to really embrace change and to reach that transformational change. So it's really exciting to be reconnecting with the Hill at this level. We've kept in touch, we've collaborated, But this is a deeper partnership, and I couldn't be more honored and thrilled and excited for what this is going to mean for children. I'm also so excited that we're featuring the work in Holyoke. We began working with Holyoke this year, and we were blown away right away by the level of professionalism, the uptake smoothness, the readiness of leadership, of coaches, and of teachers to jump in. As Cara emphasized, this was not a barreling ahead. This was a very thoughtful, strategic, long-term plan so that it was bite-sized enough that teachers can experience success with what we're doing. I want to share something very exciting for us. We have a new research study coming out that's just been, it's gone through its last level of revision. We're talking a sentence or two, and then it will be out with a major peer-reviewed journal that has an 80% rejection rate. So we're very excited to be sharing this with you. We will have the link. But in this study, we looked at 98 schools, 98, that have taken on ThinkSRSD in the past decade. Now, because I've had this collaboration with the Hill for Literacy, where I began working and rolling out SRSD a decade ago into primarily and almost entirely schools that were also working with the Hill for Literacy, and then we continued to collaborate. So we continued to have a good sample size of Hill for Literacy schools. What we found in the analysis of the data when we disaggregated the schools that were also working with Hill for Literacy in implementing MTSS, we saw our greatest gains in these schools. So a marriage made in evidence-based heaven would be the Hill for Literacy's model with ThinkSRSD. We both come from science. We didn't just refer to science as we were building our models. We came from and originated from the world of science. We were not layering research studies on. We were coming from inside the research world of what actually works in school change. So we're really excited to see the partnership of evidence-based instructional methods with evidence-based leadership and school change. I am enamored with the recent COIN study, which I know that we'll be sharing with you, that makes the Hill model evidence-based, that the components that go into that model, when implemented across schools, result in significant gains. And the approach of ThinkSRSD, which is rooted in SRSD, also results in significant gains. So you're kind of getting that evidence-based at two levels. I constantly say to all of the schools that I work with, evidence-based is not enough. There is a multiplicative relationship. We need evidence-based instruction, but we also need implementation science. We need to be implementing in our schools what science, in a way that science shows works. And that is what the Hill model brings you. It brings you an evidence-based model for school change, as Cara shared. I'm super excited about the 5 main elements of the Hill model. The first being leadership. When we walked into Holyoke, we could immediately see that leadership already had a background and an understanding in what evidence-based practices are and what it takes to adopt them and take them on. So there was a receptivity to the work and an already existing support for, we know that what you're doing is evidence-based and we're going to support our teachers with implementing this. And when you have that background implementation support, it is so much easier for the teachers to be able to have the space, have the support, and have the backing that's needed for them to implement. The fact that the Hill model emphasizes assessment, we come in at ThinkSRSD on day 1 and say, please collect a pre-assessment. And then the schools are left to follow up and make sure that that happens. But when we're walking into a Hill for Literacy system, or a system that's been working with the Hill, we know that they already understand this and they have critically systems in place already for giving the time and the space for teachers to be able to come together, analyze data, score student writing, and think about how am I going to tailor instruction. So that was already built in. So we just rode right off of that, knowing that when we handed the pre-assessments, they were going to be given and they were going to be scored and the data was going to be used to guide instruction. Next, the other element of there, the third element in the Hill model is professional learning being ongoing, embedded, and tied to curriculum. So when we brought ThinkSRSD, we spent time ahead of time figuring out how we would connect this thoughtfully and meaningfully with the curriculum that Hill was already using. So ThinkSRSD is a staged gradual release model that teaches strategies and shows teachers how to teach students how to self-regulate, how they use these strategies. And coming into Holyoke, we had already done the background work of, and here's how you'll use them within your own HQIM and fold them right in. So that work was there. Family support, critical, and the tiered instruction, we were able to just like fish in water during our professional development, rift and twist off of the fact that we knew that that all of the teachers were already using tiered instruction. So we would talk about, and here's a lesson that you would do full class, and then here is how you would differentiate for your small groups. In the world of SRSD, differentiation has been a bugaboo and a real challenge in our research studies, and the fact that Holyoke already had a grasp on tiered instruction and how to run small groups and how to what to support at tier 1 versus 2, 3. The fact that that was already there and already understood just made this a bit more of a cakewalk to roll right in. The final thing that I would say is when we came into Holyoke, we had a rare receptivity. We do not see this all the time. And among the Hill schools, it's a little bit more common, but still the receptivity, the just really savvy back end support, and the trust in us, the respect that we were given right off from the context that we had, the deference, what do you think? And I would throw it back to the Holyoke leadership and say, well, what do you think? That kind of trusting relationship suggests that these leaders have been well treated. And so when we walk into a Hill school, we walk into relationships that already have been formed and already feel a strong sense of trust in outsiders coming in to support them. And for that, we thank the Hill for Literacy for having rolled out the red carpet to us and having created that trusting relationship so that when we came in, we were able to just get right to work and have the support and positive emotions from people who have had good experiences with PD providers coming before us.
Okay, well, thank you so much for all of the information, content, wisdom that you have shared. We are going to get to hear from each of you. And before we really dig into the big questions about systems and implementation, you've all shared so much and have so much more to share. It's always nice to hear a little bit from a personal note to kind of hear about how you got into the literacy. So my first question, which is really to all of you, is what first inspired you to get involved in literacy? When you think about yourself as an educator and the journey that you have been on, when did literacy really become that special kind of special thing. And as you look at the landscape today in what we're all experiencing, what feels most urgent or essential about the work that you're doing? So anybody that wants to start, go ahead.
All right, well, if nobody else is going to jump in, I'll jump in first. All right, so my love of literacy actually started at a really young age. I was just one of those kids that loved being read to, and I would pile up the books in my room. Like, I would hit the limit of how many books you could check out from the library. That was just always me as a young kid. And reading really just transported me to different worlds, and I was always excited to talk about all the things I was learning. I was very annoying. Not much has changed in that respect. I still love sharing what I learned. But seeing others struggle with something that honestly was so easy for me and the impact that had on their lives was what ignited my passion for teaching. And today, the thing that feels most urgent for me is ensuring that students really have equitable access to evidence-based instruction, which sounds so simple, but is actually really challenging in our field. And the road to get there is really complicated. So having these strategic approaches that address the whole system rather than patches or single solutions or like riding the next wave of the new thing, because that's the norm in our field, right? So helping districts to really transform their systems so that they can transform student outcomes is what I kind of eat, sleep, and breathe.
I can jump in. And the sun came out in New England today, so now I am battling the sun behind me. For me, it was really, I started my career in education as a middle school English teacher in a small urban district, very similar really to Holyoke. And what I found right away, there was three kind of stark realities. One was that the students who are in front of me, many of them could not access the text that I was trying to teach and engage in dialogue around and have discourse. And then I also realized that college had not equipped me to be a reading teacher, because the assumption was that students, when they are in middle school, can read on grade level. And the third realization I had was that no one else was swooping in to close those gaps for my students. And that was a hard realization. But the further we let our students get into the system and pass through, the larger those gaps were getting for them. And so there was this sense of urgency and barriers that no student in their educational experience should have to face. And feeling that, and then, entering this role as a principal just enhanced that sense of urgency for me. Mm-hmm. And now in my role as executive director of academics here in Holyoke, it's just been essential. Like, there are so many competing priorities as I work with my team and we oversee all content areas. It's really been the priority and essential that we focus on high quality literacy instruction for our students, because it is the doorway to everything else, and more so than benchmarks, but letting our students be able to see themselves as capable readers and writers, and having that confidence.
I love that. Leslie, how about you?
Sure. Just as Rebecca was speaking, I just want to acknowledge how much you inspire me. And I know that Ben and Cara share this. You're doing the real work every day for the right reasons, and you're doing the right work. And we all are here to support, and we bow down to the people who are doing the real work for the right reasons. And it's incredibly hopeful that people like you are doing this. What inspired me to my interest in literacy, I think it was I sort of fell into teaching early on before I was even credentialed. I know people don't love that, but that's how, New York City was hiring anybody with a pulse. And when I saw, I was fortunately mentored by a phonics maniac, luckily. And when she gave me these and I used them and I watched the light bulbs go off. Like, that is priceless as you watch kids connect and you see them able to suddenly have books talk to them. So that was incredibly inspiring. And then evidence-based practices sort of hit me like a bus rather than me finding them. I just had this research article and tried it out with my kids and saw my kids take off. And it took me like a while to even process and connect the dots. And oh my gosh, a fever comes down really fast when you give Tylenol. And when you use evidence-based practices for teaching writing, kids take off in a way that they never have before. And it took me a while to connect that. And now I'm just this diehard. So what is most urgent? Evidence-based practices. And like Cara was saying, there's nothing simple about this. If somebody's trying to give you a simple answer, it's wrong. It's complicated. Firstly, now everybody's taking a Canva sticker and stamping it on everything, calling it evidence-based. So you have to be careful. You have to go to Google Scholar and look up the approach and see what the studies are. But what I've learned through my 2-decade journey with SRSD is that even if there's a research study, that's like a 1% at best translation to the classroom. And so my passion has been to be a bridge. And I've gotten multiple IES grants and I've gotten EIR, large federal grants, and we're still figuring it out. And we're still just trying to, how do we get this to the classroom? So that is a shocker to me, that it is not easy to pick up an evidence-based practice and carry it to a school, that itself is a whole field of study. But I'm hopeful. I'm incredibly hopeful that we are living in a moment that we're going to look back on and say, this was not a repeat of reading first. This was really different, and we did. Phonics is no longer a bad word. And now I believe that we're making changes at scale in the realm of oral language comprehension, that we are beginning to move the needle there. And I think this is very recent as we've kind of moved forward with phonics. I know there are still some, I think we're stepping into territory, Holyoke definitely, where you're going to start to see the phonics and the oral language reading comprehension come together and what that can mean for kids. And mark my words, if you're watching this 5 years from now, I think we're going to be higher than 34% as a nation.
Well, I think there's many, many children out there who are fortunate that you all found your way to literacy, and how exciting it is when we're able to see those lights go on, as you mentioned, Leslie. And Rebecca, thinking about all those competing challenges, like the light that's coming into your classroom, or the complexity, the pressures that are facing you and your faculty and your students. So Rebecca, this is really a question. Thanks to all of you for sharing all of that. Rebecca, this is a question for you. When you think about the students in Holyoke, maybe you can share a little bit about the demographics and the profile of the students. What are the gaps that they're experiencing? What are the opportunities that you see that this work is providing? And what would success look like for your students in the next few years? If things go the way that you imagine, what would be happening for them?
I think what really stands out in Holyoke is the potential of our students. And I think they are curious and they are expressive, and many of them are multilingual, and they're eager to learn when given meaningful opportunities. And it's really about creating those meaningful opportunities for them. And the gap isn't in our students, and it's not within their abilities. It is really within the systems around them. And some of those systems are outside of our control. And it's our obligation to be able to use our influence over the ones that are within our control here in our education system, to be able to provide these early literacy supports and consistency across, and culturally relevant materials for our students to see themselves represented, is really important. And I think the urgency, again, as I said, is really about more than seeing literacy as a skill. And being literate won't solve all of those systemic issues, but it provides power, and it provides belonging and confidence and opportunity. And I think 3 years from now, what I would hope to see is, one, that our teachers have that sense of self-efficacy. They're seeing and feeling the impact that they're having every day, and that they want to stay here in Holyoke because the work that we're doing is really meaningful. And our students, they are feeling that confidence. They're feeling joy and enjoying, right, and loving reading. And I think having a sense of feeling that they belong in academic spaces. And yeah, I think that's what we'd really want to see.
Fabulous. And yeah, there's so much out right now about literacy, the power of literacy. You know, the films that have come out, like Sentenced and The Right to Read, and that it's way more than the skill of reading text on a page.
Side note, I was with both the producers of Sentenced and The Right to Read last week at an event, and it was so powerful to see and hear from them and what is happening across the country. Wonderful. Yeah. So for Cara and Leslie, this is really a question for the two of you. Cara, we'll start with you. Rebecca's shared a powerful vision, right, of not only what her students will achieve, but also what the faculty and the teachers and the leaders in your schools will be able to achieve with their own confidence and sense of efficacy. So in that vision for how literacy instruction can transform outcomes for students and faculty in Holyoke, how do you see the partnership between the Hill for Literacy and ThinkSRSD helping to bring that vision to life?
Okay, well, it's a big question. So honestly, strong partnerships are game changers in this very difficult work. And so both the partnership between Hill and ThinkSRSD, but also the district, because when I came in, I didn't come into, it's not a clean slate. They had already been engaged in so much work and were such amazing partners with us over the last 4 years that collaboration has contributed to this incredible vision that, Rebecca, as you were describing it, like I just get all the warm and fuzzy feelings, like, yes, it gets me so excited. And so, you really are a visionary and have been communicating that vision with staff, and that climate that creates is incredible. And so for us at the Hill, I feel like we are bringing our expertise in operationalizing MTSS and building teacher knowledge in these evidence-based practices, and having that partnership with ThinkSRSD that's bringing that deep knowledge of evidence-based writing instruction is just incredibly powerful. It's like this huge powerhouse, essentially. We're not just kind of dropping in solutions. We're trying to align all of the work with the vision and action. And I was so excited when Rebecca shared that she was going to be initiating this partnership with ThinkSRSD, because way back at the beginning, Leslie, I don't know if you remember this, but I think year one that we started doing some work around SRSD, there was some of the student writing samples. The transformation in the first 6 weeks blew my mind to see a student who had a pretty extensive IEP, needed a lot of support, who could not construct a single sentence, to go to write a full complete paragraph and then multiple paragraphs by the time we were done months later. I never would have anticipated it. It unlocked something so powerful for the potential for that student. And so I think that it's really the power of the strong partnership, and acknowledging the expertise that lives within the district as well as within our organizations, and being able to collaborate. I think that we're going to realize that vision that Rebecca was describing.
Thanks, Cara. The power of partnerships, right? Yeah. And so, Leslie, to you, how do you see the partnership and ThinkSRSD and Hill supporting Rebecca's vision?
Yeah, I can't look forward to it enough. I mean, it's already launched. It's already going so beautifully. To Cara's anecdote about having seen the children grow, Cara already had a mindset for structured instruction. And so this kind of fit into how you think about teaching. But I'll never forget, I was running a workshop, must have been like 2011. And Cara was sitting there, I think on her own time, just curious, what is this? And you got so excited and ran up to me at the break and said, this makes so much sense. Like, this is fitting with everything I know about structured, explicit instruction. And you were like on fire in the middle of this room with all these people, just at the break, and you saw it right away, long back. And so, yeah, then it translates as you would predict. The ingredients worked. And just to continue to work with these incredible professionals who have an eye for what's going to work, and then into Holyoke, in the PDs that I've been sitting in and helping to run, in the coaches meetings, in the meetings with leadership, my breath is taken away at the level of depth of expertise in how to lead, in how to coach, and in your teacher's innovativeness of, I'm going to try it this way. What do you think? And I'm a sounding board, and yeah, go with that. It's an innovation I can't believe I didn't think of in 10 years. So I just feel like we're in the right place where, as I said earlier, the uptake, to reach school change, the relationship between evidence-based practices, and now I know this so well in the core of my being, evidence-based practices are not enough. You need the fertile ground. You need the systemic structures. They are multiplicative relationships. You don't have one, it doesn't work. So now we've got these evidence-based practices, and with the Hill, you're bringing in not only immense technical expertise with the whole team and the depth of the whole team. There's immense technical expertise, but there's also heart. There's the human touch that, again, is so important for the human side of rolling this out. So really looking forward to it all.
Awesome. So another question for all of you. And you all have varied experiences, right? Rebecca, your focus is really in your district. Cara and Leslie, you've got experience with lots of different districts, regionally, nationally. And when you think about the work that you do in your particular spaces, the people that you're working with, and in your context, what are some of the biggest opportunities and also some of the biggest challenges you see in education right now, especially when it comes to supporting teachers and improving literacy outcomes? Rebecca, you want to start?
Sure. I think one of the biggest challenges is just this sheer complexity of all that teachers have to face, right? We are talking about literacy instruction and supporting them to understand how to implement a new curriculum and these evidence-based strategies and practices, and how to look at data and match those. And that is one tiny aspect of a teacher's job. And especially in a community such as ours in Holyoke, there are many challenges that our teachers face and many other roles and hats that they have to wear. And so I think that's one of our biggest challenges, is how do we support our teachers? Again, as Cara said, time, right, is critical. That coaching, that feeling of efficacy that I've been talking about, I think that's one of the biggest pieces. because you can do hard work, but you need to feel like you're having an impact, that you're effective in executing that hard work. And so that is certainly a piece of it. And I think what kind of gives me, what I see as an opportunity is the momentum that we've started here, that we can build on that momentum when you start to feel that success, when students start to have those aha moments, as Leslie, you mentioned. It is really powerful. And we're hearing students walking around saying, I'm a reader. Like literally, I heard that out of a student's mouth. I'm a reader in the hallway, walking down the hall. And so I think, there's challenge, but there's opportunity in just the nature of the work that we do.
How about you, Leslie? The
Sure.
biggest challenges or opportunities that you see?
I think the challenges are getting the MTSS systems up and running. It is beyond rocket science. There are just so many X factors. And selfishly, I'm sitting here thinking, glad that's Kara's job, not mine. I'll leave that one to you. I can support you, but I'm really glad you're spearheading that one. And to Rebecca's point that there are larger systemic problems in our nation and our communities that we don't have the power to change. But as Rebecca said, there is our corner. And I have no shadow of a doubt that within our corner, we can make change. We do. I see it. I see schools go up 7%, 10%, some go up 20%. Can we get everybody to 95? I don't know, but can we get everybody up 10 to 20%? Yes. And so the opportunity is just to begin to see those increases. And as Rebecca said, the collective efficacy, John Hattie says, know thy impact. And so I think our opportunity is to really get that collective efficacy going, to see kids loving writing, which I think the teachers are going to start to see, and then to see some impact in quantitative data will feed that collective efficacy as well.
How about you, Kara?
All right. Well, I'm going to actually start with the challenge and then go into the opportunity.
Sure.
Because I've already said this multiple times, but I think that the biggest challenge right now is sustainability. Mm-hmm. Real change isn't about quick wins. It's about building these systems that last. And if the teachers work really hard, like they take all this new information in and they're trying to apply it and adjust their practices, and then the structures aren't there to support them, the progress fades over time. And unfortunately, I've been doing this long enough now, where I've partnered in with lots of different districts. And even when you roll out an ideal initiative with all the right training and resources and support, and people are really excited and it's going great and the data is bumping up, all these wonderful things, you can go back 2, 3, 5 years later and you will often see outcomes dip. And it can be really discouraging as somebody who's like, I'm kind of like in it for this long haul, right? So why is that? Well, there's often leadership changes and that impacts structures. There's teacher turnover. There's shifting student needs themselves. Can really dramatically change. And those are all really common threats to the system, and it takes a toll on everyone that's involved. But I also think that that's where our opportunity lies as well, because if we are anticipating those challenges and we can embed the capacity at every level, at the leadership level, at the coaching level, at the teacher level, so that those improved outcomes become the norm rather than the exception. I think that's really where, the partnerships and the strategic planning, all these things that we were talking about, I think that's where the power comes in the work.
Yeah. Well, that's a great segue into our last question. We have about 5 minutes left. And so, and I just want to share how refreshing it is, right, to hear that there's all of these challenges. And so often I think education lands in this place of like, what's wrong with our, there's this literacy crisis that people are really outside of the education world are starting to figure out. Those of us inside the education world, we've known this for a while, but so a lot of times I'll meet people and they'll ask kind of that question when they find out that I'm in the education space. And it's really refreshing to hear about your hopefulness or the bright spots, the opportunity, the places that you're looking to grow and change for yourselves and your faculty and students. And so this last question is really about that and kind of what's next. There's so many schools that are working hard to close these gaps, to address these challenges that you've been talking about, particularly in reading and writing. Leslie, I love your concept of there's our corner, right, that we can really support and that we can help grow. So from your perspective, as you look ahead, what gives you the most hope with recent trends? What gives you the most hope with literacy instruction as we head forward? Oh, Leslie, you're muted. We can't hear you. Oh, try again. No. Huh. Weird. Kari, you want to take a stab while Leslie tries to figure out her?
We made it almost all the way through with no technical issues.
Almost, right?
That'd be fun.
All right. Well, I would say what gives me hope is that we are finally seeing a lot more conversations about the interconnectedness between reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Because just because we're now talking about reading, writing, connection, we don't want to lose sight of the listening and speaking, because those are inherent aspects of that as well. So this interconnectedness is so important versus kind of treating these as like skills in silos, essentially. So this shift matters when we're talking about the whole literacy system, and pairing that with the advances in implementation science. So how we're translating research into real actionable practices in schools. Like, how do we make this a reality? Because those classrooms are incredibly complex environments. How do we make it work when there's such high degrees of variability for what people are working with? We have the potential to really dramatically improve instruction. So I have a ton of hope for what is coming now that it's not just about knowing what works, but how we're making it work. That combination gives me a lot of optimism. So,
Great. Leslie, can we hear you now?
I think what gives me the most hope, is the changes that we see in attitudes. I'm 35 years in. I remember the day when phonics was not something that we could talk about. And so the fact that that has switched, and the fact that now we're so aware of oral language comprehension. But I would say the great hope right now, for those of you who are literacy leaders, is what Kara just said, that we know enough about school change that we need to be building systems that anticipate changes in leadership, that anticipate, complete turnover. And I, craftily am trying to build in ThinkSRSD into the curriculum the teachers use, into how they think about it, so that if something new comes, something will be left behind to endure. So I think that idea of anticipatory, because now we've been around the block enough times, we know how it can go wrong, and now we're going to build with a stronger foundation to be ready for what could come.
Love it. Rebecca, the final word.
Sure. I think what gives me hope, there's a few things at the moment. One is I've been doing a lot of reading around empirical research around systems change and literacy instruction and all of these pieces. And I think what's really hopeful is that these success stories that I've been able to read from other urban districts across the country that are similar have lifted in the same way that we are here. And I think that this collective will within our district of wanting to be able to see our students reach the highest levels of success as possible And in that collective will, the collaboration, as I said, as I saw the other day, of teachers working together, coming together to support individual students' needs, and really how student-centered all of this is. And our partnerships. I think our partnerships, knowing we're not alone as we lift this work, and we have others to reach out to help us implement, to work on strategies. It has truly been a collective effort from teachers and paras and coaches and school leaders and my team. And so it just, I think all of that provides hope that we've got this collective will to move us forward to do what's right for students.
Thank you so much. And thanks to all of you, Leslie, Rebecca, Cara, for sharing your insights with us today, the importance about MTSS and about writing instruction. So much was shared and talked about. I'm just going to take a little bit to just identify a few highlights, I think, or takeaways that I heard from each of you as we went through. Rebecca, you're really good at creating little phrases that are memorable, like sweat the small stuff, right?
Well, that's not mine.
Go slow. That's fine. Well, okay. So thanks for sharing it with us. Like, go slow, be attentive to the next step and where you're at. The concept of the literacy ecosystem. And then what you just said, that partnerships help you know that you're not alone in the process, that you've got your friends and allies here that are supporting you, that you're doing it together with. Cara, your real knowledge and depth of knowledge around the complexity of literacy and the complexity of a school environment. So we've got two complex systems that we're trying to enhance and integrate. And when that happens, there's lots of opportunities for those gears to grind. And so we really need to be very thoughtful and intentional about what we're doing. And then when it comes to literacy specifically, that interconnectedness of reading, writing, speaking, and listening, and pairing that with the implementation science. And then Leslie, again, you're kind of identify, how you identified how trust in partnerships makes implementation go faster and firmer and more productive, and that people can really work together. And it's amazing what we can accomplish quickly when that happens, right? And your arc of time, the perspective that you hold of the arc of time, and that we're in a place right now, while there might be some challenges that people experience, there's a lot of hope in the way that our attitudes are changing and coming together and aligning, and how that is helping us build the systems that are needed for sustainability. So thanks to each of you for really highlighting those elements. And thanks also to everybody that joined us today. If you had to leave early, you'll get the recording. You'll hear me now. If you're still here, great. We're so happy. And you can share this with your friends and your colleagues. If you want to learn more about the Hill for Literacy, you can visit our website at hillforliteracy.com. Follow us on LinkedIn and socials. We're also launching a newly created course that we have with about the reading and writing connection, if you're interested in that. You can also visit ThinkSRSD on the ThinkSRSD website. Again, at Hill for Literacy, we are here to support you in your system. So if you're looking to develop, enhance, or integrate an MTSS system, we are here to help you with live online support. We're here to help you with on-site support, asynchronous, self-paced learning tools that we have. Leslie is here at ThinkSRSD to support you with writing instruction and how to not only embed evidence-based writing strategies into the curriculum that you have, but also make that systemic and something that can happen long-term. You can always reach me at ben@hillforliteracy.org. And thanks again for joining us. We're delighted to have you. You can click the QR code there, or you can email me, and we are so happy that you joined us. Hope to see you next time.